the debate in this election should be about how we secure and consolidate that recovery. That's absolutely vital, and how we maintain the economy on a pathway of sustainable growth and sustainable job creation. And that is not what we've been hearing from the opposition so far in this debate. My impression, I have to say, politically is that the Labour Party is looking over its shoulder all the time at Sinn Féin and is afraid of being outbid in populist stakes and unreal economic policies. And that's been very obvious from many media presentations by Labour Party spokespersons. The Fine Gael Party, on the other hand, have adopted a different position. Essentially, they're hiding behind the decisions we've already taken. And in the meantime, they're planning to stifle any chance of a recovery in the retail sector by clearly indicating in their budget documentation published to date, though I know that's revisable next week and the following week, but in the documentation published to date, they are promising a 1% increase in VAT in the budget for next year. That's incontestable. It was denied last year. It was denied yesterday evening by Deputy Varadkar on the television programme, but I double-checked the documentation since, and part of the Fine Gael plan is that there should be a VAT increase in this year, in the budget next year. Now, it is correct to say that in the recovery plan, the government has penciled in VAT changes in the later years. We deliberately put them into the later years so that we could monitor developments in the United Kingdom and ensure that any VAT increases do not impinge or impact on or distort cross-border trade. But what Fine Gael are proposing is a definite 1% increase next year. It may be revisable, it may be changed during the election campaign. Going on what's happened since the budget with both Fine Gael and Labour, I expect all these matters to be changed as the election proceeds. But at this stage, this is where they stand. And that will have a very bad effect on the retail sector and doesn't candidly show much business or commercial judgment from a party that's putting itself forward as the party of business and commercial judgment in this election. We have done the heavy lifting to bring the public finances back under control, and we've done that in the teeth of strident opposition from Fine Gael, Labour and Sinn Féin. And you reported on all of this in your daily work for the last 2.5 years. And despite this vehement opposition, for example, only a few weeks ago during the budget debate, it is now clear they will not reverse any of our decisions. So, for example, Richard Bruton indicated in recent days that Fine Gael will not reverse the universal social charge. Brendan Howland appeared to make a similar declaration on the part of the Labour Party, although I noted that Deputy Burton now suggests that the social charge will be subject to a study. If the social charge is subject to a study, the hundreds of millions of revenue that it's bringing in will have to be found somewhere else. And there's an onus on the Labour Party to say where they will find that in the interim this year while they conduct a study on this subject. So it does seem to me that both Fine Gael and Labour do accept the universal social charge. They will not be reversing it. It's important voters understand that, because that is a major issue at the doorsteps. And voters understandably do not like an increased tax burden or seeing more money coming out of their wage slips. Though I would point out that the social charge is simply a fusion of two existing charges, the health levy and the income levy. But the fact remains it appears as a new item on your payslip. But Fine Gael and Labour are clearly not going to reverse this social charge. Fine Gael are reported to have changed on this whole issue of the ratio of tax to spending and to have adopted the position of the government and of Fianna Fáil, which is a 2-to-1 breakdown between tax and spending cuts. Now, Michael Noonan said the reason for this change was that Budget 2011 changed the arithmetic. Well, again, that's not the case. The Fine Gael Budget 2011 submission committed to just over 10 billion in cuts and just under 5 billion in taxes over the 4 years. So it was always effectively 2-to-1. They never explicitly committed to a 3-to-1 ratio of spending cuts to tax hikes in a policy document, but they were happy to give the impression that that was their position. Again, they're hiding behind our policies. The low-tax party claim is simply bogus, and again it shows that when it comes to the adjustment, Fine Gael don't really disagree with what we've been doing. As you know, I've repeatedly said in relation to the Labour Party that there's a doctrine in operation called the Late Late Show doctrine, where Eamon Gilmore appeared on the Late Late Show and said he wouldn't reverse any of the cuts, he wouldn't reverse any of the tax increases. He opposed them all. He said that they were bringing the country to despair and hopelessness, and then he turns around and says, well, I'm not going to change any of that. And the question I would like to ask is this. When individuals show such a reluctance to take the right decisions and oppose them all the time, and then retrospectively say they were right, can we really trust them when they're at odds with each other to make sure they make the right decisions in the years ahead? I think that's a very important point for this country. And it's a reason why Fianna Fáil must be a party of strength in the next Oireachtas and in the next Dáil.